resources and then also wellness.
Ooh, so any human resource needs some help with your business. This is the woman. And we have Verna, there's your mic, Verna. We have Verna Humphrey here today. And Verna, tell them who you are and what you do because you're going to have to help somebody today.
Hello. I'm Verna Humphrey. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I realized yesterday that I have been working in the field of social work for 30 years.
Wow!
So I am just grateful to God for the opportunity to be able to impact lives. I work for the largest mental health, behavioral health program actually in the nation. It's Beacon Health Services, and I also do private practice where I do counseling for people with mental illness, marital counseling and whatnot. And this is a topic that's pretty dear to my heart. And so I'm just glad to be able to speak with y'all tonight.
And let me say something about Verna as well. Verna is also a minister. And so, with that being said, let me tell you the things that Verna do for the community. I mean, I send people to Verna that cannot pay $1, and Verna will make sure that they get the care that they need, the holistic care that they need. And I've never seen anything like that where someone is so dedicated to not their profession, but what their profession entails. And so we send people to her, married couples, angry children, whatever. I mean, my husband, he just loves it. He's like, call Verna. Call Verna. And so it has just been awesome. So Verna is here to really speak truth to power, and she has two perspectives as it relates to the issue that we're going to be talking about tonight, which is the issue of suicide. And of course, I am Gail Johnson, and it is pleasure, honor. I'm honored to be here. I am honored to just talk about this topic. I have experienced it firsthand. My first time experiencing it was a young lady that would come to the church often. She was 12 years of age, and her family found her hanging from a banister in the home. And I had never, ever been able to wrap my mind around that. And so I know that this is something that we need to discuss, and it's something that we need to bring to the forefront and see what we can do as a community, as families, or whatever, to make sure that people are safe and that they get the care that they need. Right, Verna? It really boils down to the care that people need. And I think a lot of times it's such a taboo, especially in our communities, that people do not get the care that they need, and they try to self-medicate. We see a lot of people that are on drugs, and we deem them as being homeless and pray. No, it's just that they're not getting the help that they need.
Commit suicide. There's no preparation. There's nothing. You trying to talk, to really express and allow others to tell you what they're feeling, what they're dealing with openly. And so for me, this is just so dear because I've seen so many people, just like she said, the 12-year-old. I have a dear friend that eight-year-old daughter committed suicide about 2 years ago. My supervisor committed suicide last year, and we're still reeling from that. And so people don't open up. They don't share. They don't tell what it is that they're really going through, and they don't seek help. It's hard to help somebody if they don't tell you what they're going through. So this panel, this arena, to be able to just, let's put it out there, let's talk about it, is great. And for all of us that maybe we haven't been impacted by suicide per se, but we all have an obligation, a responsibility to learn what we can learn, and to educate others, and to say, I'm here for you, I do care. And so that's all of our responsibility. And so this is just a good avenue to start that thing off, and let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Lori?
I'm just so glad that you said that, because you don't need a license to care.
Come on.
Right.
Awesome.
You don't, and a lot of times we'll dismiss things as, well, I'm not licensed for that, or that's not my profession. For suicidal individuals, and I could just speak for myself, being one that has attempted to commit suicide twice in my lifetime, just the very darkest place that I've ever been in my life. And I've shared this a little bit before, but it was a time when I was not a Christian, I wasn't a believer. It was just a place of hopelessness. All this week, I kept thinking about it, and to be very honest and candid, really that's a portion of how New Wine was birthed, because I had shared with Lady Gail, even when Kate Spade committed suicide, and she's a very famous woman, I told Lady Gail, was like, it could have just been a platform like ours where she could have seen something on social media or heard something to give her hope, or just I'm not alone. Because it is, for me, it was just a place of such dark hopelessness, and then such a mental attack of words coming from inward. So to have someone on the outside be able to break that barrier with you, or kind of engage to push you past that, move that barrier out the way, and let's rationalize, let's talk like you're saying. And everyone is different. Every person is different, because we are all unique and we're all made differently. So, what happened for me may not happen for anyone ever, but it is just one thing that I wanted to say. I was sharing with, I think it was my sister, that a lot of times you hear people say, if they tell you that they're thinking about committing suicide, then they're not really serious, they're bluffing. And so I want to make sure that I say to that, you never want to be the one that's on the other end of that, that person really did commit suicide and you thought they were bluffing. So it takes nothing for us to stop and say, okay, let me take this serious. Let's talk. Let's process this through. Let's, connect. Let's find out what's going on. Why would you even say those words? What is going on inside of you to make you feel that that's the avenue that's going to give you freedom, which it does not. So, for myself, again, it was just 2 times in my adult life, successful businesswoman, children, husband. Outwardly, everyone would think everything was great. Inwardly, I was just at a place where I felt very specifically like I just was not going to accomplish what I had set for myself to accomplish in the time frame that I wanted to accomplish it. So I believed an internal lie of, okay, well then, you might as well just quit, just give up, just walk away, just, enough is enough. And that second time around, I just really felt like, I've tried this, I've tried that, nothing seems to work, it's never gonna be perfect. And it sent me into that spiral again of thinking that, the only way out from that would be suicide. So I thank God that it was not successful. I thank God for my sister who was in California and I was in Virginia, and she called the EMS and was like, here's her address, and they knocked that door down to get to me because I wouldn't be sitting here. And I told her that I just appreciate her being able to hear me even when I didn't want to be heard, that she heard past everything else and was like, no, I'm sending someone. So, we'll talk more later, but I just wanted to kind of share that.
So for me, I lost my sister in 2011, and it's amazing that your sister was there because I was with mine as well. And she literally told me the day before what she wanted to do, and of course, I was tired of the emergency room runs and going back and back to the emergency room because she's older. She has to be a harm to herself or a threat to society in order for her to be able to be admitted, unfortunately. So we had many moments of you can't clearly see that she's not completely in her right. She was diagnosed bipolar 10 years prior, and no one explained to us that it was a lifelong illness. No one explained to us that she would continue to need treatment. And so she got treatment, she got better. Then, in my mind, normal is what we call it. And then she had a couple of, the stress levels of bipolar, you just think, okay, she's just taking, life is what it is, and it's not. It's completely different once you're diagnosed with an illness, especially if you're not getting treatment appropriately. And we didn't know that. We honestly didn't know that. We were just excited to see that once the medication got in her system, that she was normal again. So life was normal. 10 years later, life happened, stress triggers,
Of course.
and it got worse. And I remember her calling me and telling me, do I sound different? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I feel like something's different. I'm like, do you feel like something is happening like the last time? She was like, I'm not sure. I said, well, it's good that you're recognizing this. And that was it from that conversation. A couple of days went by and she was having episodes, manic episodes. Back and forth with the hospital visits, a couple of months go by. And it's like, send her home as soon as she could manipulate you to get home. And me and my mother are looking like, why are you guys, sending her home? We don't know what to do with her. You guys are the professionals, right? And so that happened multiple times. And the day before she said, Laura, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. I think I'm going to, and I just prefer not to say what happened specifically. And so I said, okay, we're going to go to the doctor. We went to the doctor the day before. I did what I thought I was supposed to do, right? And the doctor tells her, you're high functioning. You would never do it like my other clients. So he prescribed another medication, sent her home. And I remember looking at her at home and I was like, we're gonna get this medicine, you're gonna be good, we're gonna get through this. And I remember looking at her face. And it was lifeless. She had tears coming down her eyes and she was just looking like, I'm just here for you. I'm just here for Mom, but I'm not really here. Nobody's helping me. And the next day, she sounded amazing. I'm gonna come to you. I used to do hair then. I'm gonna come and get my hair done. I'm gonna be there. I have a couple of errands to run. And I'm like, oh my God, she's back. Yes. And then we couldn't get a hold of her. And my mom was like, I'm a little bit concerned. And I was like, well, I think she's fine. She sounded good. And so, I stayed at work. The next thing I know, I get a phone call and they're like, she did it. And this was after the doctor sent her home. And to me, common sense went out the window. My mind is thinking, you're the professional. We trust you. And so I think it's very important that you get a second, third, fourth opinion. You always find someone that fits well with you. And just because they have the professional title behind them, it doesn't mean that they know it all. And so going back to not having to be a professional, I battled with my own self of, what else could I have done? I thought I did what I was supposed to do. And then, I just wanted to help. I just wanted to help her. And then after her passing, I wanted to help other individuals, but I felt like I wasn't able to give enough because I messed up. And so now, 7 years later, here we are. And so, yeah, that was our story.
My journey started when my mom got sick. She got a heart attack, and then when she was going to get like a triple bypass surgery, they found that she had a mass in her throat, and it was stage 4 cancer. So that's when our journey totally changed, because they say they had to first treat the cancer before she can get the surgery. And then after that, she went through a lot of different, she was in and out of the hospital, and she was very ill for a very long time. And it got to a point where we had to do everything for her. We had to feed her through a tube and everything, and we went through all that until it was very traumatic, but we had to we had to go through it. And then when she she passed. And when she passed, she had told us her wishes were to be buried in Kenya. And so during that time frame when everybody was making arrangements so that we can all go for her funeral, something happened to my papers, and it took a long time for me to be able to get what I needed to get so I could travel with the rest of the family. So everybody was able to go for the funeral, and I had to be left behind. And that was just so, I can't even describe how I felt, because I couldn't go for her funeral. And so, and just because of how I was raised, and we just don't talk about feelings, I couldn't really tell anybody how I was feeling, how broken that made me feel, just being left behind, not being able to be there. Not to be there for her funeral. And then, but I didn't share with anybody how I was feeling. So all I did was I went back to work, and I had my daughter was young, so I had to take care of my daughter. And then I also we had the church, so I was in ministry. I was busy in ministry. I used to sing in the worship team. I used to help with the administration. I was just busy because I didn't want to share with anybody how I was feeling, because when you have high blood pressure, they can they can take the measurements and see this person has high blood pressure and they need medication or they need to be taken care of. But when it comes to your emotions and how you feel, there's no way of gauging that. So you have no way of gauging to see whether am I just overreacting, or is this just too much, or should I talk to someone? So I just decided I wouldn't talk to anybody, and I'll just handle it myself the best way I could, and that was just to try and avoid it. So I never grieved for my mom. I never shared with anybody in my family, and it seemed like just life continued with everybody, even at work, everything just continued as normal. But then now when my son was born, I had postpartum depression. And so since I still had all these other emotions that had not been handled, I started finding myself, I started finding myself with having to go to the doctor for the same kind of sicknesses that my mom had. And that was terrifying for me, because I was thinking, I have little children and I'm gonna be sick for a long time. I'm gonna have to be taken care of the way we had to take care of my mom. And that just that started to torment me. Yeah, so I was tormented by and the more I would think about it, the more I would raise my blood pressure, and the more I would get sick. And then when I go, the doctor would tell me, okay, you also have this and you have that. And that just became very, very scary for me. So a time came when I thought that I just don't want to be a burden to my family. So I should just maybe take some pills and just finish my life so that I'm not a burden to anybody, because I didn't want to be a burden to anybody. And it was during that time that I was with my son, and I was like, let me put him to bed, and then I can just take these pills and finish my life so that I won't be a burden to anybody. But during that day, my son refused to sleep. He loved to sleep in his bed, but he refused to sleep. And I had to hold him the whole night. So I was like, and that's when I just knew that God has a purpose for my life. And that night, it was almost early morning, I remember a voice just telling me that I will help you. It didn't say how, but I just know a voice told me, I will help you. And that's just how my journey was.
Oh my goodness, okay. I just did a little research today, and one thing I discovered statistically is it says that suicide rates rose in all but one state between 1999 and 2016, with increases seen across ages, gender, race, and ethnicity. and more than half of all the deaths in 27 states, the people had no known mental health condition when they ended their life. So like you didn't have, or no bipolarism, no schizophrenia, anything that, people kind of cue in on if you have a mental illness or you have a diagnosis per se, depression or whatever. You see what I'm saying? It also says that in North Dakota, the rate jumped more than 57%. 57%. From 2014 to 2016, the rate was.
Yeah, and it really goes across, it's faceless, it's not this race, that race,
No.
it's, statistics show more women have suicidal ideations than men, but 79% of all suicides completed are by a man. And so